What do you make of this report out of Edmonton? The Oilers and Connor McDavid discussing a contract and seemingly 8 years and around $13 million a year, which, as you point out on Twitter, I mean, I that would be a pretty good deal for Edmonton, would it not?
Well, put it this way: they're going to make a lot more than $13 million a year off him.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no question about that. It's the bottom line is there was a lot of talk that he was only going to sign for 5 years because a number of players did that. Crosby did that, Malkin did that, Stamkos did that, Kane and Taves did that, and then they went to their third contracts, which were their big ones. So Edmonton gets a victory out of that. And I know there's some people who can't wrap their head around 13.25, but you can't do backdiving contracts anymore. You're going to make a fortune off him. He's going to be the best player in the league. I think Crosby reminded us in the playoffs that he's still the best player in the league, but McDavid is damn close. And I mean, it's a win for them. They get him for 9 more years, and I just did a little bit of math because the one thing I always look about is the percentage of the cap. If you take a look at it, Malkin and Crosby both came in around 15% of the cap in the year that they took their second deals, and they both got 8.7, and Sid still makes 8.7, and now Malkin makes 9.5. But they both came in around 15.3%, and McDavid, if the cap stays flat, he's going to be at 17.6% in 2018-19. But the cap usually moves a bit. So as long as it does, I think it's going to stay in line.
So it'll be, in other words, what you're saying, it'll be someplace in that 15 to 16 and a half range, probably.
Something like that, yes. Leave aside the impact this is going to have on Austin Matthews for a minute, but my first thought was, okay, what does this do to the Oilers down the road? Because you've got some other young players you're going to have to deal with as well. But if you put it in that context, Elliotte, you're not going to go out and spend crazy, but it certainly shouldn't hamstring you, should it? As long as you win, it shouldn't hamstring you. I guess that would be the caveat. Yes, and Chris Johnston just pointed out that the record, I believe, is Ovechkin in the cap world. He was at 19% when he signed his.
Okay.
So, this is not out of line for a superstar player. And, Jeff, I know there's some people who hear that number and they go crazy. I just, what? The way I look at it, he deserves every penny. I don't get mad at people signing for the most money they can, especially when, you're, as an athlete, your prime earning power is a lot shorter than a lot of other people.
Well, and I think most of us have kind of moved beyond the shock value in that area. But also, I'm thinking back to, there have been a lot of economic studies, and I know you're well aware of this. Grange wrote about this in detail a couple of years ago. You can make a case that a guy like LeBron James, as much money as he's making, you can make a case that in kind of real world money, he's underpaid.
Yes, you could.
You really can.
Yes, you could. In terms of what he'd be worth on the open market, absolutely. Absolutely, you can argue that. And I remember, actually, a matter of fact, a couple of years ago when Felix Hernandez signed his big extension, like $175 million in Seattle, LeBron James tweeted out $175 million. I should have played baseball.
Yeah.
So, that's the economics. Every sport's economics is different. Some sports have caps. Others don't. Like I said, I think in any walk of life, if somebody wants to cut the best deal for themselves, I don't blame them. And the other thing too is, if Connor McDavid walked in there and said, I want the maximum 20% of the cap for 5 years, Edmonton was going to have no choice but to do it. So I know people can't wrap their heads around it, but in his own way, he did do them a favor.